Alrighty, this should hopefully be a relatively short video to go through a little bit of the mark scheme of level 3 unfamiliar text. So this is what the mark scheme looks like, really exciting. This is covering N1 to E8, but what I'm going to do on the next slide is just break it down to a smaller part of the criteria and just talk you through it. So as you can see, there is 3 criteria that you need to hit to get A3, A4, or N1, N2, but no one's aiming for that. And then there's a 4th criteria that's required to get above and achieve. So another thing that you'll notice, so that one on the previous slide is just a generic one. And this one here, the bits that are highlighted in green are going through the specific part of the question. So this is based on the 2019 text, the 2019 assessment schedule. The only thing that changes every year across all the mark schemes is that bit that's in green there, so that link to the question. So that's the generic one, and then the specific one has the keywords from the question in it. So the first part that you need to have is a discussion. So this means that however well you do the discussion determines your grade. So your discussion is your ideas and the ideas of the text and how you're exploring them. So if you look at that one there, it's a discussion on the aspects specified in the question. So in that question, the specified thing that you were talking about, that you were asked to discuss, was the ongoing change. So your discussion, your grade on how well you respond to that part of the question. So that's through that use of keywords. The one that you guys are going to be looking at, the 2017 one, it's about the writer's attitude to work. So how you discuss that. Valid and specific aspects. So these are your non-negotiables. They're consistent across all of the criteria, regardless of what grade you're aiming for. This is your specified aspects. So ideas, purposes, language. The best thing to do is make sure that you've got a minimum of 2 language features. That way you know that you might have a bonus one by talking about ideas or purposes or whatever, but you've definitely got to secure 2 because you know you've referenced a rhetorical question in the narrative perspective, or a metaphor and a bit of symbolism, something like that. So they're non-negotiables. They are required at every level. And if you look across A4 to E7 and obviously E8 as well, that's the same. The next thing is your discussion of details of those aspects, and that refers to your discussion of the crafting, so the use of language and structure, and how the language positions us, and how their concept or aspect that you're asked to talk about in the question, for example, change or work or war or childhood, how they have used language or aspects to do that. So how have they been able to explore childhood? So the first part, the discussion, is that discussion of childhood. So what do you get from that? You might understand more about the experience of childhood is always traumatizing. That's your idea, and that's what you'll discuss. But then the next bit, the insightful, critical discussion part, that's how they convey that, and that is through the use of language or structure or something to that effect. And then the thing that really determines a grade that takes it beyond and achieved is your awareness of the text developing. That's where being able to identify that the text is different across or has different focuses or develops or contrasts. That's why that's really meaningful. I encourage chunking a text up into 3 or 4 chunks, partly to make it easier to annotate and look through and understand, but also because then you can discuss that and it helps you also see trends and how it develops. Be aware that like literally every text that NCA pick is going to have something like that. They're going to want you to see different sides or a finishing part of the text that is different to the beginning part of the text. They choose that on purpose. So those are the 4 things that come up in the criteria. They don't change. The only thing that changes is the aspect that you're focusing on, or the thing you're focusing on, like work, childhood, imagination, that sort of stuff. So you've always got to have a discussion about that, which is your ideas, your response, your awareness, what it shows, what you've learned, what it makes you think about, how it shows human nature, how it shows society, how you reflect on it, how the character reflects on it, how the person writing reflects on it. That's the discussion. The aspects is your evidence and your language features and reference, that sort of stuff. Your discussion of how they convey that is your relationship and connection to language and evidence and analysis. So that's the same stuff you did at level 2, you're just doing it here and calling it discussion. And then your awareness of the text developing and the connection and tracing that connection and seeing that you can see that it is different or it develops or that there is a movement or it looks different in different places. That's the thing that determines the higher grades. When you're looking at responsive responses and what the marker is looking for, they're looking for at least 2 aspects. You cannot pass someone without that. It's not level 1 anymore. It's not a thing. You need plenty of evidence. I'd be going for probably like 6 quotes, not all necessarily big ones, but 6 references to specific things in the text would be a good one. Your bare minimum that you're probably going to get away with is obviously the 2 from the aspects, but you would still kind of struggle to get over that achieved criteria with just 2. Keywords from the topic to make sure that you're addressing and then referenced in your discussion. Writer's purpose, make it explicit and make it up. Doesn't matter, just put it in there, give it a stab in the dark and have a guess at what you think the purpose is going to be. Doesn't matter if it's cliched, what you're putting in there, put it in there. And think, what does it remind you of? What does the text do for you? Showing that personal engagement is something that the markers are definitely going to be looking for. If you're not sure how I found any of this information that I found, if you go onto Google or whatever and type in NCA English resources, it'll take you to subject resources. If you scroll down the page, you'll see this, which is resources for externally assessed standards. This is where you find the general summaries, which is the assessment specifications, but also all the past papers and exemplars. Now for 3.3, they don't put up the resource booklet in full, which is unfortunate, and sometimes they don't have exemplars for some years, which is weird and I don't quite know why. But it also will have assessment schedules, which is what I've just been showing you, along with assessment reports and things like that. So if you don't know where to access that, that's where you find it. Google NZQA English subject resources and you'll find it all. So that's the mark scheme. Hopefully that's relatively straightforward. Thank you.